and I sing my tales with fairy blood running through my veins. Words intertwine like branches in the breeze. I write the songs that touch the heart with ease. I am the earth, the tree, the river and stone, connected to nature in harmony. I roam with every step, the hills I explore, my bare feet walk through ancient folklore. Oh, hear my song beneath the moonlit sky. Dance with the spirits as the stars come alive. In whispers of the wind, the magic unfolds. Fairy blood in minds, the stories untold.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, travelling bards would walk barefoot across the Celtic lands, communing with our Mother Earth and the natural world. They would be informed by the stones, the trees, the rivers, the birds, and the earth herself, and this they would weave into songs, poetry, and magical stories. Fast forward to modern times, and so it was that I was in Ireland for a shamanic training, and we were at the old hawthorn or fairy tree on the sacred hill of Tara, which was thick with spirits from other times. I waited my turn to engage with the tree and was quite unprepared for a spirit voice calling me closer and telling me to kiss a branch. What? Kiss the branch? As soon as I put my lips to the tree, I was sucked through a portal to another time and place. I found myself in a pub, which was dimly lit and noisy with the sound of people talking, laughing, a fiddle playing. It was crowded, but the little gnarled man, perched on a stool, holding a large, pewter-looking tankard, fixed me with a stern look and said, You come from here. We kicked you out. Once a bard, always a bard. Once a writer, always a writer. You have a job to do. Get on with it. The next minute I was back in this reality, dazed, shaken, and dizzy. I knew in that moment my life had changed forever. Flashes of memory exploded in my mind. So many Fae experiences and incarnations, sighted people commenting on them all around me in this life. The Fae woman who revealed herself to both my husband and myself in physical form by an old tree we used to meditate by. Was I really of old fairy blood? According to the unseen, apparently so. And from that day, the Fae and the unseen really upped the ante. It was not the last time that a leprechaun told me, write, and write faster. Years passed. I felt such a sense of urgency. But as a writer, I had so many ideas. I wrote for a living. I'd written children's books, children's TV, comedy, screenplays, documentaries, other books. What did they want me to write about? The dryads stepped in and took over my training in a sacred grove of elms on our land, who I suddenly felt compelled to visit every single day. They became incredibly dear to me. I was guided to buy this land, seeing it in visions and dreams about 15 years before it actually became ours. And then, of course, how could I say no to the animals who needed our help? A safe place to be. Cows, sheep, goats, geese, abused horses, and then the magnificent wild horses, wild cats, and of course dogs, all found their way into our heart and our home. But it wasn't an ordinary sanctuary. It was a place of deep peace. And every animal and sensitive human sensed it. Even our Haggai. He remarked how cozy it felt because the animals actually relax, knowing the truck will never come to take them to slaughter. You can maybe hear the horses outside. The peace emanating from them goes into the collective field of consciousness. It creates deep peace instead of terror. And I realized that this work was what they wanted me to write about. They want all of us to write stories about how we don't conform to a society that is violent to nature and other species, how we sing a different song of reverence for others. These are the stories that need to be told. It hasn't been easy for me. Most of the time I felt like an outcast. I live in a farming community, and here I was creating a sanctuary for animals they called commodities and pests. Our place is rich in so-called pests, like wild horses and kangaroos, even deer and wild pigs, foxes, rabbits, possums and wombats and frogs, and so many different species of birds. I'm told this is impossible, that I'll destroy the land, that I'm overstocked. But the earth tells me a different story. She craves the peace and reverence. She soaks it up. The elm dryads spent years trying to imbue me with a confidence as we went through drought, fires, floods. They kept trying to get me to acknowledge the Fae druid priestess within. After all, I did consider trees to be among my closest friends. You can bring balance and harmony to the land you steward when you walk this way, they told me. Your paddocks will turn into meadows filled with wildflowers. Imagine never needing to buy hay again. Apparently, the secret was being in alignment with my original mission, storytelling. The secret was also in acknowledging who we are as divine beings by embodying that divinity. But I just wasn't getting it right, no matter what I wrote, not even when I channeled the Fae Elder's Guide to the Higher Dimensions, which people are loving because it keeps them remembering the higher timeline and what is possible. Even my book, Secret Animal Business, about the incredible unseen lives of the animals who share our world. People would send me emails at 2 a.m, blaming me for the book they couldn't put down. But were the Fae happy? Was Mr. Leprechaun? No. Facebook posts, too transient. Reels, still not enough reach. They were pushing me to a bigger stage and I was resisting. Why? I died a lot of horrible deaths in previous incarnations for speaking my truth. So even though my beloved grandfather Pine told me I would never be killed in this life, it took me a lot of work to overcome a fear of a bigger stage. I was doing ceremony by our creek one night earlier this year, and the mage Merlin popped in and said, "Write faster." The same message came from the dragons, the dryads, other mages, Fae, write and write faster. I'll never forget a tall Fae mentor who would join me at the Elm Grove to teach me, walking over to me in a paddock where I was filling a water trough for the horses. He leaned over and he put his hands on my shoulders and said, "Write." It was so frustrating and unsettling. I kept feeling I was letting them down. It almost froze my creativity. What is the story you are so desperate for me to tell? Finally, they relented and they explained, write about your perspective, weave your everyday life into your writing work, remind people of how things once were and will be again. Source not from the past damaged you, the times you were killed. Write about the lives where you thrived, because you did. Source from your soul, your higher self, the good stories, the ones of power, the ones to awaken others to their full potential as the highest expression of humanity. Oh, suddenly my life made sense, my innate telepathy with all beings, the push by spirit into helping other people's animals around the world for 4 decades, even when I really just wanted to make films. The sanctuary, the deep connections and insights and understandings I gained from this long apprenticeship, and all the spiritual work I do every single day, like being yelled at by leprechauns. The other day I went to the magical hawthorn on our land and found the leprechaun in bed. He was so cranky to be woken up. I was mortified. I promised to bring him a special cake the very next day. I was so apologetic, and one must always give back. But I heard him giggling as I left the hawthorn grove. Write and write faster. The highest expression of humanity does not cause suffering to others, and the suffering caused to other animals by humans just breaks my heart. And it has since I was a tiny kid of 8, learning the hard way, living in the country. That was when I became an animal and nature advocate. I was just told I was too sensitive. But I was Fae, and the Fae don't hurt their kin, they protect them. Here in Australia, for example, our beautiful wild horses are being sadistically shot by cowboys and helicopters, leaving them to die slowly in agony with up to 17 bullets lodged in their delicate bodies. Instead of being heralded as a keystone large herbivore, a highly evolved ancient species who are just pure love with a potent healing force for all beings, our ignorant and barbaric government just deems them a pest and wants them all gone as brutally as possible. I've been shocked and saddened at just how few members of government have been open to the message of compassion and empathy for not just these horses, but all animals killed barbarically this way. There is no idea of sacred in our government, no idea of reverence, compassionate conservation, empathy, benevolent stewardship. And they have managed a well-funded propaganda machine to make sure that less informed Australians agree with them. It is unjust. And as one wild stallion in spirit said to me, insulting. He said it was insulting for an elder species to be called a pest. He turned up one full moon night when I normally do a releasing ceremony for all the animal souls stuck on the earth plane through the trauma of being killed before their time. But he didn't want to be released. He wanted to roam his homeland for a while. Instead, he told me to go inside and get your journal. So I did. He said the golden age we hunger for is not just for humans, but for all beings, and that humanity could not be considered enlightened until our leaders understand that everything is interconnected. I live with about 90 wild horses who live freely on our land. We started rescuing them from the snowy mountains of New South Wales around 20 years ago. So I have 2 decades of experience, observation and conversation. They have been incredible teachers about so many things. To save the remaining wild horses has been a huge focus for me for the last 4 years, especially. Mainly because they called, and one always answers a call. Here's an award-winning short 2-minute film that we put into film festivals across Europe a couple of years back, before they were aerial shooting. I see your purity, your ancient soul, the vitality coming up through the earth to meet your naked hooves, giving you radiance, majesty. I see the deep love you have for your family. You call me from that huge heart of yours, knocking on the door of mine, inviting me to freedom. You make me ache to be a better human, to be part of the natural world again. Your beauty lights up the landscape, making poetry in the trees. The wind sings your praises. You make me glad to be alive. I'm so sorry others want to enslave you, trap you, take you away from the families you so deeply love. I'm sorry they want to extinguish your flame. It is unacceptable. But you are wild horse. You will always run in our hearts. You will always tickle our souls awake to remembering. You are not quite of this world. You and Mother Earth have been together for millennia. Sacred kinship. You will always be here, calling our spirits to join you. Perhaps that is the real reason for your persecution. But too late. You have already ignited the flame of light, and we will fight for your freedom and our own. A better world is coming because of you. Here's another film we made quickly after a protest we attended in the National Park earlier this year. To be honest, I was shocked at the lack of birdsong. There was no birds at all, and the amount of trauma being held in the land. There were so few animals and so much human construction and so much of the deadly poison 1080 put out as baits. This poison has been banned in every country save Australia and New Zealand. The shock made me see clearly how much more work was needed. More stories to break through the conditioning, the programming, and the brainwashing of folks who just don't understand.
In the mountains of Australia, where wild horses roam, a majestic sight, an ancient beauty to behold, running through the hills, chasing the wind, a symbol of freedom, a spirit that will never dim. But their existence is threatened, their lives are at stake, hunted by the thoughtless who spew facts that are fake. But we won't stand idle, we won't let them down. We'll fight for their survival, we'll protect gray, black and brown. Wild and free, running through the mountains high, with the wind in their veins, under the endless sky. We'll stand as the guardians, hand in hand we'll fight to keep them wild and free, forever shining bright. Wild and free, forever shining bright, shining bright, shining bright.
Creativity is a path forward for a better world. Look at the books like Anna Sewell's Black Beauty, which showed empathy for the working horse. And the Australian movie Babe literally changed the diets of people around the world. I mean, who could eat cute little Babe after that film? And that's just animals. We are in a time of prophecy. the prophecy of peace. 1,000 years of peace, a golden age like no other, a time of the Pachacuti, of when the beautiful feminine world of nurturing and kindness to every species returns. The world turns right side up. Many of us are already walking in two worlds, the old one and the new. But we walk a fine line. Are we going to submit to an age of dystopia and fear? Are we going to continue to let forests be cut down, dead zones created? Or are we going to create a new world with a return to the old ways of respecting every single soul as sovereign, asking permission, giving back, living in balance and harmony with all beings? Can we strive to be accepted back into the community of the natural world at a very deep level, a connection that means the other animals are not afraid of us? Being one with our living planet, not thinking we are superior and apart? When we look to the entertainment industry, there is so much violence. Violence is normalized. 1,000 years ago, back in the 70s, when I was a young journalist, I covered a conference where a professor was talking about the impact of television violence on susceptible people. Violence begets violence. Since then, screen violence has only gotten worse, and I think it reflects a sickness in our society, and it furthers this sickness. I was a judge for an annual national screenwriting competition for a very long time, and I realised that most of these writers weren't digging deep. Artists are supposed to be the antenna of society. Creatives can trailblaze, but these stories kept us stuck in a loop of 9 to 5, of impending dystopia, apocalypse, violence, male entitlement, racism, and separation from nature and animals. Stories program the mind and can create the future we don't want. Even the Fae don't want to be held by the old stories about them. They've moved on. Those old stories belong in a library, they told me. We need to break free. The writing process is such that we can channel stories from the timeline of the future. As shaman, we can journey to the future. We can speak to all manner of beings. We can source the books, songs, poetry, films, and artworks we already created in the future, from the future we want. I've had all manner of beings give me titles of future works, which I need to write, and write faster. We can change the world with conscious creations that speak of a future of peace and harmony and give people hope and a pathway to this future. We can seed it so that people can grasp that seed and grow it with love. We are in a time of prophecy and we need to be leaders. We are needed to make the prophecy come to fruition. When I first heard about the prophecy of peace in 1978, my soul called out to it. I couldn't imagine what peace actually looked like. I remember thinking, does everyone wear white? That was the image I had in my head, a little stream, people all sitting around it, all wearing white. But now I know it looks more like what we have created at our sanctuary. A world of peace for every species. A world without fear, where humans become partners with life, not predators. The universal language of the world was and is telepathy. So let's get conversing with the world and tell the stories, the animals, the stones, the rivers, the mountains, the trees, and the unseen want the world to hear for positive change. Let's take a journey to a healed timeline in the future, a higher timeline, a promise of a better world, a world where humanity got it right. The Fae Elders call it the Age of Delight. Get yourselves comfortable, close your eyes, take a deep breath in Hold it for 1, 2, 3, exhale. Take another deep breath in, hold it for 1, 2, 3, exhale. And you find yourself in a forest, a beautiful old forest with a little dirt track. And you're following the little dirt track, and the trees are friendly and kind, and you can feel them pushing you further and further, deeper and deeper into the forest. And then you come across a big old oak tree, and this oak tree has a blue door. And you know this is the tree that is going to take you to your future self. You open the door, and there on the landing there's a choice to go upstairs or downstairs. And today you're going to go upstairs. Up, up, up this beautiful wooden, gorgeous old staircase. Footsteps creaking as you go up, further and further, higher and higher. Higher and higher. Higher and higher. And then you find yourself coming to the top of the staircase, and you open the door to a landing, and there's another door, and outside this door is a beautiful meadow. And you look around and it's a beautiful future timeline where a little village is all echo and fitting in with the environment. There's habitat for all the other species. It's been well thought out. It's just so natural and peaceful and harmonious that your whole being sighs with relief. And then you walk towards it, this little village, and you find you're very drawn to a building that is a cafe. And you go into this cafe, and there's people milling around, drinking hot cacao, smiling. There's music in the background. And you start looking for a booth, a beautiful booth where your future self is sitting. Oh, there they are. You slide in and you say hello to your future self. What do they look like? Who are they now? Your future self twinkles, a twinkling smile, holds your hand and tells you the path you must take, the stories to tell, the paintings to paint, whatever it is that we can do to create the higher timeline. Your future self is vibrating so highly that you're excited too, and you feel wonderful just being in their presence, their twinkly presence. And then your future self wants to take you out to the gardens behind the cafe. The beautiful gardens with fruit trees and flowers and meadows. And there you find a unicorn, because this is a timeline of wonder. And the unicorn touches you with their magic horn and greets you, welcoming you to this higher timeline, and also gives you a message of what kind of action you can take to arrive at this destination and to help the world's people arrive at this destination. In this beautiful being's presence, your heart expands. You are feeling transcendent. And you know what you have to do. You know the title of your next book. You know the next artwork, the next working of craft, the next talk, the next class. And whatever it is that you personally have to heal to get to where you really want to be. And in this magical place, your future self is very excited. They want you to meet the Merlin. And so they take you through the garden to where the Merlin waits on a bench. A beautifully crafted bench. And his eyes crinkle with welcoming happiness. And that makes you feel so welcomed and so loved. And he shakes your hand. Because each one of us is important on this mission to lift the world into the highest timeline. Each one of us is doing our part to hold the light, to hold the prophecy, to hold the vision. Each one of us is a faith keeper. And he gives you a scroll, and he clasps your hand again, thanking you. It's time to leave this beautiful, enchanted timeline. And you and your future self walk slowly back through this beautiful meadow with wildflowers and trees and all kinds of animals and birds and butterflies. And you feel such relief. It feels like coming home. This world of peace is the one that you came to to help create. And you know that in your heart. And the heart is creating it all around you. Your future self is delighted. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Your future self with the twinkling eyes thanks you so much for being there and for the good work you're going to do to bring this timeline of magic and harmony and peace for all species, peace for everyone, into the world. And you turn around and you thank your future self. And you give your future self a gift for everything they've given you. And you hug. And you know that in this future, you have twinkling eyes and a happy heart. Feeling lighthearted and grateful, you walk through the door, wave goodbye to this magical place, and start your descent down the stairs. Down, down, down. Keep going down, down, until you come to the landing with the blue door. And when you go through this door, you decide that it's going to be now that you will read Merlin's message. And you undo the scroll. What is the message on the scroll? Outside in the forest, the trees are smiling, the birds are chattering and singing. And you are walking along the path, hugging yourself with delight, knowing that you are an important part of creating the future. And you come back into this time and space, back into the room, back into your chair, back into your body, rubbing your hands together, rubbing your feet on the floor, back into your body, and now taking some time to write down all the messages, the journey, the thoughts, the guidance that will take you to the next step in your journey to helping the world reach a higher timeline, the prophecy of peace. Stories and ideas are conscious beings. There's a right time and a right person for them to come through. That person will get a thought, and it will niggle at them until they sit down for the creation of it. We call it when a story stalks you. But if the chosen one doesn't create, that story will seek another to be told through, because they are alive and because they need to be born. And once the writing process starts, if you truly get yourself out of the way, Spirit talks through you, and it becomes an incredible experience, a way of knowledge, just like the old traveling bards. I once took a group of students on a journey to meet their personal dragon allies. One of them was a writer, and she was gifted with the name of her next children's book. She dismissed it until I shared with her how important it was she claim it, teaching her children's audience about dragons through her perspective, which was kind, compassionate, and shamanic. What we need today are the new stories, the stories of compassion, empathy, humans with their DNA activated, humans standing up for trees, the earth, animals, and personal freedoms to create social change and freedom for all. The new heroes and heroines. We especially need people living in crowded cities to understand the importance of nature and not fear it, but to understand nature is their true home and all animals their kin. I see a lot of change coming from animal activism. For example, the wild horse wars of America and Australia. Wild horses being earth healers, restorers, ancient beings of light, protecting light grids and bringing light and healing to all. It's why I am so compelled to tell their story in the face of incredible darkness and injustice. More and more humans are being activated by this cruelty towards these beautiful beings and awakened to action, finding their strength. And with every letter, submission, film, story, song, protest, forgiveness ritual, prayer, and protection ceremony, creating the new world of compassion. I am humbled by the sacrifice of these magnificent beings hosted in animal temples, whose souls knew what sort of time they were landing in and what they must endure for the prophecy of peace. For this there are no words, but their stories will continue to be told, for what is remembered lives. Outside my activism and social work, I also use storytelling for healing, which is another form of change. A long time ago, my husband was dying in hospital with pneumonia. The doctors had told me their medicines weren't working and I needed to trust in God. It was before I studied shamanic healing, but I was a bard and I knew enough to tell him stories and send him on journeys to cold climates to bring his temperature down and to revitalize his spirit with visions of a creative future working together on our films and books. Creative spirits will die if they aren't nurtured. So I made a future life real to him through story and vision. He recovered, he left his job and focused more on his creative career. Phew. I'll do the same for both animals and for human clients. I call it story reweaving. It's channeled directly from spirit, their spirit. It's like a soul retrieval. We go back to the original wound and exchange hurt and anger for kindness and love through storytelling. For example, my most recent story reweaving included lost souls heading back to the dark side in past centuries. But there was this kindly mentor who took them in, and this absolutely turned their life about, and this bled into this lifetime, and huge personal change transpired. This kindly mentor appeared in more than one client, animal or human. There's absolutely no difference. Here's a story reweaving from a human client that I did recently. Way back in Victorian England, there was a young boy desperate for coin. He was supposed to deliver a package to old Jack, a pirate. They met in a cave by the sea, but instead of paying him, Old Jack brutally killed him. In the new Heel story, the boy is stopped in the street by a merchant who offers him a silver coin if he will do a job for him. He warns him that old Jack is dangerous. The boy makes the choice to trust the merchant. He becomes the merchant's apprentice, learning how to be the best he can be. He grows up to continue the gift of kindness to others, helping street urchins find their feet. Kindness begets kindness. Another example might be to retell and thus reshape the story of parental love. For example, the child of an abusive alcoholic father. Their soul shares the story of a higher timeline of a loving, healthy childhood, and this carries forward into the client's current life. As we know, love and loving kindness is a powerful healing force for positive change, and these stories make positive change. The other way I use my creativity is in the way of the Druid priestess. I will sing spontaneous healing songs that come through me from spirit to calm, to heal, to help animals cross to the summerland, to repair the natural world from trauma, like a shooting or our shocking black summer of wildfires in 2019. Because trauma will stay in the landscape and needs soothing, just like the country was a person or a frightened animal. We have wild, untamed horses on our property, and it's my job to make sure they are safe and cared for. Every now and again, there is an accident or a little tummy upset, and I'm always humbled by the way they will let me in, perhaps even accepting touch for the very first time. Once there was a stallion who was looking at his side, potential colic, and he wasn't a cuddly one. So I went out to the paddock and I sang a healing song, and I saw the entire herd settle, and he stood still enough for me to treat him. I am so grateful to my training with the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, learning about the power and resonance of the words deep peace, because seriously, sometimes the only medicine you have is you. I called my charity for animals the Deep Peace Trust. The words deep peace have a potent effect on the nervous system and are powerful in calming the collective field. I will make up lullabies and chants with words like deep peace, divine love, you are safe and whole and healed. I sing these to the animals to calm them, to help them create the healing environment they need. One time, a weak foal passed away during winter, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. I spent time just sitting with her body out in the paddock, singing to her soul about deep peace and divine love, helping the soul cross to the light. A herd of horses stopped to listen and didn't leave until I was done. Interestingly, it wasn't the foal's herd, but I know they were listening too. Here's an example of the kind of song I might make up.
You are whole. You are healed. The portal is sealed. Feel the shield. wings aloft. You are safe. Rest tonight in deep peace and divine
Just like we are nature, we are animals. We are our art. We are our stories, our songs, poetry, and artistic creations. So let's create a world through our stories and art that brings humanity home to the world that has been promised to us for eons. A world without violence and fear. A world that is rich in creativity and plenty. A world of deep peace for all species. We are in a time of prophecy. We are healers. Let's make the world safe again through our compassionate creativity. Thank you.